I'm Anthony D'Amato. I just released a new record called The Shipwreck From The Shore on a label called New West, and came out last week, and now starting to hit the road and do a whole bunch of shows for it.
There was a time when I could weather the raging of the storm. There was a time when I could gather the roses from the thorns. Oh, a time when I was certain, a time when I was sure. There was a time that I loved you, I don't love you anymore.
So I had recorded and released 2 albums independently. Just one was while I was in college in my dorm room. The other was just in my bedroom in New York. And I'd played around and supported those here in the U.S. and in Europe. I was getting ready to make a 3rd record, and I'd started kind of doing it the same way in my apartment. And I had a hard drive crash, and I lost everything. And I took that as a sign that it was time to like step things up a notch, get into a real studio, work with a producer, and I reached out to this guy, Sam Kassir, who's in Josh Ritter's band, is one of my favorite producers. And I just sent him an email cold with some demos, and he was into it, and we kind of took it from there. And right before I went into the studio with him, I got connected with this label, New West, which has some of my absolute heroes on it: Steve Earle, Chris Christopherson, Patty Griffin. So that kind of synced up at a nice time where I was just about to make this record, and while we were in the studio, I was going back and forth with them, and by the time we had finished, we kind of had a deal set up.
Time when I was lonesome, time when I was bored. There was a time that I loved you, I don't love you anymore.
Was a Time is a song that when I was writing it, it sort of felt like all the tumblers of a lock falling into place, and once I wrote that song, the rest of the record kind of poured out pretty quickly in terms of the writing process. So originally that was slated to be much later in the album, and I think the night before I had to finalize the track list for New West, I had this crisis of faith, and I just was like, absolutely, it has to go up front. Like, that was the first song, that's what makes all the rest of the songs make sense to me, and so we switched it up, and now that kicks off the record, and I feel like that was the right move.
Let me die in a heartbeat, not slow and steady. Let me die in my sleep when I'm good and ready.
Good and Ready was, that was one of the first songs that I wrote with a band in mind. Besides just making records by myself before this, I'd done pretty much all my shows were just me and a guitar and harmonica, solo acoustic, and I didn't really want to write things that I couldn't necessarily play that way, but once I started performing with a band, it lifted some of the weight off of me and meant that I could write instrumental hooks for songs that other people could play. And on the record, Good and Ready is kind of anchored by this slide guitar riff that Gabriel plays. It's something that I kind of approximate live on the guitar and then double it with the harmonica at the end. But that was one of the first songs that I really started writing with a band in mind. And lyrically, that song, it's funny, when I play it live, people come up to me afterwards and they hear it in one of 2 ways. It's either this very sweet, romantic song of devotion and love, or it's either this incredibly dark, depressing breakup song. So we put together a really cool band for these sessions. Sam Kassir, who produced it, and he's in Josh Ritter's band, he played keyboards on it. And he brought along Matt McCaughan from Bon Iver to play drums. And Matt had been sitting in with Josh Ritter's band, that's how they knew each other. And we wanted a rhythm section that had experience playing together. So Matt brought Brad Cook from Megaphone with him. They lived down near each other in North Carolina. So that was kind of this dream lineup for me, to have guys from Megaphone and Bon Iver, and my buddy Gabriel Gordon, who plays in the live band, and he's also in Natalie Merchant's band. He came up and played electric guitar. And Katie, who did the session with me here today, she's been singing with me since we were in college, and she came up to Maine for a day too for the recording. Part of the reason that I wanted to go into a studio and work with Sam on this record is I knew exactly what this album would sound like if I made it myself, because I'd done that before. I'd done it where I play all the instruments and I produce it, and I'm proud of those records that I did, but I wanted to do something where I didn't know how it was going to turn out. And kind of the whole time I was up there, in the back of my head, I was thinking, this is either going to turn out amazing. This is either going to be exactly what I was hoping for, or it's going to be totally weird and everyone's going to hate it. But like, I would rather be between those two extremes than do right down the middle of what people were expecting.
If it don't work out, if it don't work out, you take the bed and I'll take the couch. If it don't work out.
If It Don't Work Out is one of the more direct and personal songs that I've ever really written. That came, a lot of the record was kind of written during this period where I'd been in this long-term relationship where I lived with the person, and the relationship ended not quite in sync with when the lease on the apartment we shared ended. So we became roommates for a period, and that song, If It Don't Work Out, You Take the Bed and I'll Take the Couch, that was kind of what I was living at the moment. And you know, I was going out and playing shows, and I did this run of dates with Pete Yorn during that time, and I've been writing all these songs as sort of this way of processing like what was waiting for me at home when I got back.
Oh, I'm a gambling man. I come here to play me another hand. I'm a gambling man.
It's so easy to just sit around and wait for ideas to come, and sometimes they will, but not always. So, you know, it's a large part of it is inspiration, but you also need to go out and make yourself get inspired sometimes. If I can do for other people what you know, some of my favorite songwriters have done for me, and then you know, that's kind of all there is to it.
Oh, to find love was, my God, I thought it'd be enough just to find love once.
Hi, I'm Anthony D'Amato. Look for me on Last.fm.
Oh, it's come again, stronger now than it's ever been. Love is come